We know that the lake levels were much lower in those years than they are today. It is possible that many rich archaeological sites, which would give us even more information about life in those days, are now hidden beneath the waters of Lake Huron and Lake St. Clair. Many net sinkers, stone weights used to hold fishing nets in place in the water, have been found in the St. Clair River. These hand-shaped stones are clear evidence that fish were an important source of food for native peoples in the region. Increasingly, hardwood trees were growing where only pine trees grew before. Many of these hardwood trees grew nuts that people could eat. Animals as well as humans enjoyed the new richness the forests provided. This meant more wild game for the hunters. Migratory waterfowl such as ducks and geese, along with frogs, turtles, and crayfish found in wetlands also added to the diet. Such a rich bounty of food may well have allowed people to have larger families because it was easy to find food. By moving their campsites within different ecosystems in the region, native peoples could provide for all in their family, group, or tribe without having to travel long distances to hunt big game. An even greater change about 2,500 years ago marked the beginning of what we now call the woodland period. Until this time, it is likely that everything that native peoples ate was either hunted or gathered from the wild. But now, at the start of the woodland period, there is evidence that people began to grow some of their own food. This is an important change because it meant people could now settle in a smaller area, with their crops providing them the food they needed. Native peoples still moved often to allow the land and animals to replenish themselves. By moving around, they allowed habitats to regenerate. About this same time, we see that native peoples were now using another form of technology. This technology was in the form of pots made from clay. Pottery is easily decorated in many different ways. Scientists find pottery particularly important to study because often the different decorations and designs on pottery relate to how ancient peoples lived. Many mysteries remain about how these early native peoples lived. One of the most interesting mysteries could be called the mystery of the mounds. Most of the mounds were burial mounds, but some likely were the foundations for buildings. Possibly, temples of some sort were built on top of them. The mystery is, no one knows who these mound builders were, why they built mounds, or why they stopped building them. We know that mounds existed in St. Clair County, including mounds in Draper Park, in what is now the city of Port Huron. Unfortunately, farming and building construction through the years have destroyed these mounds in any hope of learning more from the evidence they contained. It may well be that the mystery of the mounds will never be solved. Somewhat less mysterious is another part of Native history that is located about 50 miles to the north of Port Huron in Sanilac County. This is the home of a series of detailed pictures carved into rock. These are called petroglyphs, and scientists believe they were carved about 1,000 years ago.
The reason that there are so many glyphs and so many symbols on this one particular stone is that for hundreds of years, people have been putting down not only animals that they were hunting or things that were in the particular area, but also we think, many people believe, that there was a spiritual side to it as well.
The Sanilac petroglyphs are important because of the stories they tell about life in those days. But they are even more important to native peoples today, who consider them to be sacred connections to their ancestors. Throughout their long history, life for Michigan's native peoples was one of hard work, courage, and spirituality. The traditions of native peoples living today tell us that their ancestors believed in keeping good spiritual relationship with the world around them.
The native peoples here had a reverence for all living things. You know, we believed each blade of grass and each tree, each animal had a spirit. And we honored those spirits by even when we hunted, we would, you know, give sema and we would say a prayer for the spirits of those animals and letting them know that we were coming to take some of you.
For the original people, one of the areas they settled was in Michigan. Today, these people are known as the Anishinaabe, a group of tribes known today by the names of Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. The largest group of native peoples living in Michigan and St. Clair County were known as the Astaran, or People of the Fire. They called themselves by names that referred to their clan or village. Often, they simply called themselves the people or the original people. Those names again reflect the ancient stories that tell of a creator putting each group of native peoples in their individual homelands. By the middle of the 1600s, an event happened that would mean life for St. Clair County's native peoples would never again be the same.